I'm live in Memphis, Tennessee, where I've been meeting with leaders about protecting the right to vote. 12 days to Election Day. Here's where the race stands. The poll tracker national average shows President Obama now in the lead, getting 47.8% of the popular vote. Mitt Romney has 46.9%. The New York Times 538 blog says that if the election were held today, the president would win 291 electoral votes. Mitt Romney would get 247. 270 are needed to win the White House. 538 says the president has a 71% chance of winning. Romney has a 29% chance. And as of tonight, 7.7 million people have already voted. And that includes the president, who cast his own ballot today in Chicago. We'll have much more on the early voting later on in the show. But we start with tonight's lead. Mitt Romney's Murdoch mess. Senate candidate Richard Murdoch's God-intended rape comments are now threatening to undermine Mitt Romney's carefully crafted effort to appeal to voters as moderate Mitt. Desperate to hide the extreme Republican positions on women's health, Romney is just wishing and hoping this will all go away. But someone forgot to tell the press corps this morning in Ohio.
Governor, you wishing Senator Murdoch to pull that ass?
Governor, do you disavow Murdoch's comments on rape?
You give me back $10, I'll make it even, all right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
That's me?
Yes,
all right.
Thanks.
Governor, do you disavow Murdoch's comments on rape?
Thank you. Have a good day. But please don't ask me about God intending rape anymore. This is awkward for Mitt Romney. After all, at this hour, Romney's ad endorsing Murdoch is still running in Indiana, and the campaign has no plans to pull support. And while Governor Romney tries to hide his own party, is trying to keep the story out of the airwaves. It's a red-hot story. A small stampede of Republicans is running away from Murdoch. Senator Scott Brown, who's in a close election. Senator Scott Ayotte, Congressman Mike Pence running for governor in Indiana. And you know it's bad when Governor Haley Barbour calls what he said kind of crazy. And then there's Senator John McCain. He single-handedly exposed the crisis inside the Republican Party on the issue of extremism on abortion. Last night, he broke with the governor, saying he would not support Murdoch unless he offers an apology for the rape comment. But by this morning, that was all forgotten. Senator McCain emerged to reverse himself, saying he was, quote, glad that Mr. Murdoch apologized, and he hopes the people of Indiana will elect Mr. Murdoch to the U.S. Senate. But the problem remains for Mitt Romney. A year ago, he was asked about a personhood bill on Mike Huckabee's show. Here's what he said.
Would you have supported the constitutional amendment that would have established the definition of life at conception?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. As for Mr. Murdoch, he believes that a woman must carry a rapist baby because life is life, period. So does Paul Ryan.
I've always adopted the position that the method of conception doesn't change the definition of life.
The method of conception, that's what we call rape. No wonder Mitt Romney can't reject Murdoch. When it comes to policy, Paul Ryan and Murdoch have the same position. The Republican extremism on this issue since 2010 has now caught up with them all just days before the election. And President Obama knows it.
Let me make a very simple proposition. Rape is rape. It is a crime. And so these various distinctions about rape and, don't make too much sense to me, don't make any sense to me. This is exactly why you don't want a bunch of politicians, mostly male, making decisions about women's health care decisions.
12 days to go. How long can Governor Romney hide in plain sight? Joining me now is Michelle Carter, Washington correspondent for Newsweek and The Daily Beast, and Alicia Menendez, host and producer for HuffPost Live. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you, Rev.
Thanks, Rev.
Michelle, how hard is it for Romney to dodge these questions for the next 2 weeks?
Whew, 2 weeks. You know, I know he's probably waking up some mornings going, how did I get into this party? First he has to deal with Todd Aiken. Now he's got to deal with Murdoch. But I don't think the press corps is going to let this one go. The questions then are going to become, you know, why is he ducking it? How long is he going to duck it? You know, these things, we don't have any debates left to distract us. This is the crazy season in the campaign. And at some level, it would just be better if he came out and addressed it and kind of got it over with.
Alicia, can he duck it for 2 weeks, or is he going to have to come and address it once and for all, as Michelle is saying?
I think the fact that he's gone on this long means that they've made a calculated decision that they're not going to talk about it. And what's really sad, the fact that this meme has taken over, that we continue to talk about exceptions, leads us away from the major conversation, which is that in the case of 90% of abortions, Mitt Romney would want those abortions to be illegal. That's the conversation that we actually need to have front and center. So this entire conversation has shifted to the right. Instead of us talking about the fact, the personhood amendment, as you said, about Mitt Romney's support of the Blunt Amendment, the fact that he wants to overturn the Affordable Care Act, which provides all sorts of protections for women to have access to contraceptives, which would then lower the rate of unintended pregnancy. That's what's at the heart of all of this. And instead, Republicans keep pushing us into this conversation that exists only on the margins, and that in and of itself is unfortunate.
Well, Michelle, let's go there a minute. Let's go there. The fact is, as she said, women's right to choose, under Governor Romney's policies, more than 90% of abortions would be illegal. Rape, incest, and life of the mother are the only exceptions under his policies. Those cases account for less than 90% of abortions. So under the Romney plan, 90% of abortions would be illegal, contraceptions would be limited. His own policy is extremely regressive in terms of women's right to choose, Michelle.
There's no question that this is an issue for a lot of women out there. It's fired up a lot of women. And I think that Romney knows it's a problem. This is why you saw him a few weeks ago telling the Des Moines Register folks that he couldn't see legislation coming across his desk that would become part of his agenda. He's trying to kind of skirt the issue. And I think once he got into office, he would probably do a couple of flip-flops, and this wouldn't be front and center on his agenda. But it does beg the question of, if he is dealing with a very right-wing Congress, how much he would get pressured to make this part of his agenda.
And his appointments to the Supreme Court could also factor in if he were to be the president. But let me ask you this, Alicia. As he's remained silent, the president keeps hitting on women's issues. Let me show you this and tell me how this will also possibly force Mr. Romney to come out and say something in the next 2 weeks. Watch this.
You can choose to turn back the clock 50 years on women, or in this election, you can stand up for the kind of America that says we embrace everybody.
I don't think any politician in Washington, most of whom are male, should be making health care decisions for women.
I believe women are capable and should make their own health care decisions for themselves.
With the president coming out over and over again, saying his statements, appealing to women voters with this, how does Romney not address this Alicia?
I think it's a great question, and I think it's a tricky balance for Romney. On one hand, he wants to make sure that he's maintaining the evangelical support that he has worked really hard to garner during this election. And on the other hand, he knows that what he is doing is firing up a key component of the Democratic base, unmarried women. Now, the challenge for Democrats is that it's less about persuading them and actually about making sure that those women are registered to vote, actually showing up to vote. And so that's the piece that Democrats will need to figure out in the next 2 weeks, because on the messaging, on the persuasion piece, Team Obama has been handed a huge gift.
Now, Michelle, one of the things that was a little surprising to me is that Mr. Murdoch actually has said the controversial rape comment helped him in the race. Asked if the campaign gained votes after the abortion comment, Murdoch replied, "I know we did." And Rick Santorum came out in his defense. Watch this.
He didn't say rape was a gift from God. You'd have to contort words beyond meaning to get that understanding of it. Look, this is this gotcha stuff in the media is just that. It's just trying to play gotcha politics.
I mean, Michelle, this is gotcha politics to stand up for women questioning something like this. And isn't this a real problem for Romney?
Anytime you don't like a statement in politics, you refer to it as gotcha politics. It is a problem for Romney because it echoes well beyond the state where it happens. Yes, it fires up the base for the candidate who says it, because people take to the hustings to defend one of their own. But it also fires up women across the country, and it gives Obama excellent talking points. And while Romney has been trying to keep this election focused strictly on the economy, every time social issues are mentioned and he has to address or dodge those, it works to Obama's favor.
Now, one thing I have to say, Alicia, is that some Republicans are coming out against Murdoch. Senator Kelly Ayotte has said Murdoch's comments do not represent her views. Congressman Mike Pence, I strongly disagree with the statement made by Richard Murdoch. I urge him to apologize. And Governor Haley Barbour, what he said was kind of crazy. I think that Mr. Romney not saying something is a loud statement within itself.
I agree. And
Michelle Cottle and Alicia Menendez. Yes, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
I was going to say, we had Governor Huntsman on. He said the same thing, and I think this is the problem with Mitt Romney. He doesn't know how to talk about a serious issue, one of the most important decisions a woman could make in her life, sometimes one of the most painful, and say, I understand what this means for you. I understand what this means for your family, and I'm going to have the decency to talk about it in a respectful way that it acknowledges all of the complexities around it. Instead, he tells you to have a good day, and that's not enough for American women.
Thank you. Michelle Cottle and Alicia Menendez, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Rev.
Thanks, Rev.
Coming up, this is what real momentum looks like. Colin Powell endorses the president, and the right wing can't handle it. Wait until you see this. And the good times keep rolling for Mitt Romney. If you believe Mitt Romney, what his campaign is now saying about Ohio that we need to talk about. Plus the early voting president, he returns to Chicago to vote. We'll tell you why early voting is the key to this election. And it's a mysterious story that our Facebook fans are very curious about. Does the Romney family own voting machines? What is that all about? We look into it, and we have some answers tonight. You're watching Politics Nation on MSNBC.